Hello, I'm Angelique Grimm. We are here today in my shop Leto Tattoo Studio in Porrentruy, Switzerland. So today I'm tattooing a customer who came from Brussels, especially for that. And I will be doing on the inside of her forearm a cat, and the breed of this cat is a Maine Coon. So now I'm going to put the stencil, and for that I'm using the gold standard stencil primer from Electrum. And so I put twice, because I put the first layer of stencil stuff and I let it dry. Then I put a second one, like this it's more long lasting. And after that I just dry it with a paper, because I don't want my lines to be blurry as I have a lot of details on my stencil. So when I put my stencil and when I have so much details like here, I just take a dry paper after that and carefully I put it on it and I just tap on it to remove the excess of stencil. I insist more on the eyes. This is the most important thing. I don't want it to be blurry. Okay, so as I said, I'm using the Cheyenne Sol Nova Unlimited. This is the only machine I'm using. And I'm using WJX cartridges. To begin with, it will be 17 magnums of touch. So I will begin with the bottom of my tattoo, because realism needs to be like a printer, so you begin by the bottom. Concerning the ink, I will mix most of the time, but I will take a little of black and a little of dilution. So the first caps is pure black, XXX, dynamic. The second is dilution, like 2 and 3 of black and then dilution. The third one is 3 of dilution and the last part of black. Then I have grays and then another black, world famous one, just to mix sometimes with the dilution, and white. And I have a second black because I don't want to mess my pure black I have here, so I'm mixing with the second black sometimes. So I don't put my machine too high. I put it, okay, I'm ready. So I will take some black and dilution to begin with. So the bottom of my cat will be quite detailed, but at the same time it's really fluffy. And it's not the most sharp place. So I will make more shadows, more shader things than liner, because I don't want it to be too much detail. I want to keep the focus on the face. So most of the bottom will be with black and mixing like grey wash. So every time for the moment you see me taking some ink, it will be quite the same. So concerning my machine, I don't have any numbers indicating me which voltage I have, but in general I'm using between 5 to 9. And I think that because you just push the button, and after that you can hear the difference of vibration like this. And in general I put my machine like this, and I think it's like 7, 8 voltage. And concerning my machine for the stroke, I have a 3.5 stroke. This is the best for me for realism. So I try to wipe off only what I'm tattooing, not to remove the stencil around. And I'm going to change also the needle and take a 7 shader from T-Tech. T-Tech is a Canadian brand. It's not really famous, but I love this brand for the shaders. As you see, I changed from the Magnum to the shader. And I'm making this curves effect to have the texture of the fur. Actually, it's more like a sketch that I'm doing because I have my stencil. Now I'm making like bases. And after that I will go more with details. I will go back with the Magnum to make some shadows on top. But for the moment I'm just drawing, if I can say it like this, some hairs to give some movement. And after that I will go more with the shadows around. So I'm working like layers, so that's why at the beginning I made some shadows simply, and then I used the 7 shaders that I'm still using it, but I made some hairs just to make some bases, as I said, for the not to lose my stencil. And then on this basis I'm going more detailed and I'm adding more hairs textures around. So like this I have volume, I have some back parts, some dark parts, and some lightest, so I know better where I am. After that I can put some details on top. So I came back to the 17 Magnum Soft Edge because now I'm making some shadows on top of what I've done before with the shader, and I'm also using the side of the Magnum to create some hairs long and some movements. And I'm also making the black parts that I have on my stencil with the Magnum. So I'm using now the 7 liner from WJX. It will be helping me to make some more detailed hairs on top of what I'm doing. I'm using True Black for this one. Now I'm going to switch between 7 shader and 7 liner. You will see the difference because the 7 liner is the blue needle and the 7 shader is the white needle. Now I already have a good texture base, but I would like to work even more on layers, so I will have even more textures on top of what I've done for the moment. So I'm adding hairs a little everywhere. So I changed again my needle. I took the 9 Magnum Soft Edge back because now I want to make more small hair textures like here. And at the same time, when I'm taking a needle, I try to make so much different techniques at the same time. So I'm making some small hairs. At the same time, I'm making some shadows, and after that, some textures like here. After that, I will go back to the 7 liner and 7 shader just like before. So now I'm going to take back the 7 liner because I have my hairs on the front of the neck to make. So I'm going to make one by one, and after that, next to that, I will be using a magnum to make the shadow. So I will be alternating with 2 needles because I will make the lines, the small hairs, the small top of hairs of this part, and at the same time next to it I will make the shadow. So sometimes I will be using the liner, the 7 liner, even the 3 liner sometimes to make the smaller line hairs. And after that on the side I will be using the 17 magnum soft edge as I'm doing here. So I will be using alternatively the Magnum and the liner now, because I have to make quite a lot of jobs here around the jaw and the mouth. So for the moment I'm using the 9 Magnum softage. After that I will go back to the small liners. It will be the 3 liner and the 7 liner. So now I'm beginning the face, and I have a lot of different textures and a lot of work and details. So I'll be changing a lot of needles. So here I'm using the 9 Magnum, and most of it will be the small Magnum if I'm using Magnum. And most of it after will be the small liners that I have. 3 liner and 7 liner. A little of shader sometimes, but the shader, you recognize it because it's the whites. This is the only shader I have, it's a 7 shader. I can make some lines with magnums. Like a lot of my hair textures are made with magnums because I'm using the flat side of magnums to make them. And sometimes I'm even making some solid black with liners when it's small areas. When I have long hairs like this, for example, it's easier to use them because the movement of magnums are more fluid than liner. And with liner, sometimes it makes you more solid lines, and with magnum, it's more like you can use in different positions the magnum, and sometimes you can use one range or 3 needles at the same time when you're moving like a comb. And I feel like I prefer playing with the magnums in general for the hairs when it's long. For the area next to the nose, I made the hairs and then the shadow. And for the area under the eye, I decided to make the opposite, like I made the shadow and the hairs on top, because the area next to the nose was harder to delimitate, so I made first all the details with the hairs, like this I knew exactly where it was. But for the other part, I decided like it's less dangerous to lose my stencil, so I can make first my shadow. So it doesn't matter for me. You can make first shadow and hairs after, or the opposite. So concerning the colors, I'm deciding with my feeling on the moment. Sometimes I will take a pure black, sometimes I will take a dilution, sometimes even gray, it depends. I'm always changing concerning the place and concerning the feeling on the moment. I don't have one specific technique. Everything is quite good. So concerning the hairs, I have different directions, and this is because I'm following exactly what I see on my pictures. So sometimes when I see that the hairs are going this way, I'm following this exactly like on my picture, because this is the natural movement of the hairs. I use the free liner just to make the outline of the whiskers. And after that, this is just to make some sharp lines, and after that, next to it, I'll be using the Magnum to make the shadows around. So I started the eye inside with the 7 liner to make some random shadows and details. Then I come with the 3 liner to make sharper details like the nerves inside. And after that, on top of this, I will be using the Magnum to make the real shadow on top of everything, to make it a little darker. So I'm using the 7 liner for the ear and pure black because I'm making the small hairs on the outside of the ear. So I was using the 7 liner, now I just changed for the 3 liner to make the smaller hairs now. Like this, it's more sharp. Still with the pure black. So I'm finishing the tattoo now. I'm still using the free liner for the last details. And after that I will be taking a new needle, the 5 liner, to make the white. I finally chose a 3 liner instead of a 5 liner because the whiskers are really small, so it was too large. So I take the smallest I have. So I just put the white in the places that I left empty. Like this, the skin is really a skin color, and I just add the white on top. Now I finished, and to clean the tattoo I'm using the Pantera green soap, foam soap. Like this, it's more gentle for the skin of my customer, which has been having a lot of pain today. My customer was really brave, and so now I just put the white, and I still need to finish that to make it to leave it bleed a little, and that's it. Okay, so we finished, and I waited 10 minutes, like this it stopped bleeding. Now I'm going to wipe it again to make it perfectly clean. And after that my customer can go home and happy with her new tattoo. So now that we made the pictures and everything, I'm going to wrap the customer's arm. So before that I'm putting some Vaseline. And I'm putting some Vaseline because I don't want the tattoo to be sticky on the bandage I will put on top. Like this, she will remove it easier tomorrow. So she will keep this bandage until tomorrow because she's coming from far away. So she's going to live with it and remove it at home safely and clean it and leave it like this with nothing on top. This is a kind of diaper, like tattoo armor, but for me I'm using one that I buy in a pharmacy. But this is exactly the same principle. And just some tape, and I don't put any tape on her skin because she has a reactive skin with tape, so I'm really careful with that. So now we check that she can move the arm safely because she's not taking the car, you're not driving, but in case. When my customer, they have to go back driving along a long road, I'm always being careful that they can still move their arm, not to be dangerous. Okay, so we just finished the tattoo, almost 8 hours tattooing. I'm really tired, exhausted, but I'm happy of the result, and my customer is really happy too, so most important part for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now I'm going to enjoy my cup of tea and going back to sleep. Thank you.